Before we begin today's story, take a moment to subscribe if you enjoy emotionally driven stories that stay with you long after the video ends. These are the kinds of stories that aren't loud or rushed, they quietly settle into your heart. And if you stay until the end, this one might linger longer than you expect. I never expected the turning point in my marriage to begin with something so ordinary, just me, the dog, and a last-minute message. But that's exactly how it happened. And what followed quietly changed the rhythm of my life. It was a gray Wednesday afternoon, the kind where silence feels heavier than usual. The house carried that hollow echo that only appears when routines replace conversations. My husband, Adrian, was on his third business trip of the month. By then I had grown used to the pattern. The rushed goodbyes, the delayed replies, the half-finished phone calls. Distance doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it settles in so slowly you only notice it once it feels permanent. Only Cooper, our golden retriever, refused to adjust. He waited by the front door most of the morning, tail lifting every time a car passed, convinced it might be him returning. He wouldn't be back for days. Then my phone buzzed. A short message appeared. Quick favor. Derek's at the door. I told him he could take Cooper to the lake for the weekend. Hope that's okay. I read it twice. Derek, my husband's quiet college friend. The one who always stood slightly apart at gatherings. Polite. Observant. Hard to read. Not someone I expected at my door without warning. I hesitated, then opened it. He stood under the dull porch light with 2 duffel bags and a careful, apologetic smile. Adrian said you'd have Cooper ready, he said softly. Right, yes, I answered, still catching up to the moment. He stepped inside with calm courtesy, kneeling to greet Cooper first, letting the dog decide the pace. Animals always know who is safe, Cooper approved instantly. Derek looked up at me and asked, simple and direct. You okay? The question caught me off guard. No one had asked me that, not truly, in a very long time. I'm fine, I said automatically. He didn't argue, didn't analyze, just nodded, like he heard both the answer and the truth behind it. I can wait while you pack his things, he said. Or we could have coffee first. There was no pressure in his voice, just presence. I glanced at the quiet clock on the wall. Coffee sounds good, I replied. And that small decision, the simplest one, turned out to matter more than I could possibly know. Sleep didn't come easily that night, not because Derek was in the guest room, but because his earlier question kept echoing in my thoughts. It wasn't loud or accusing, just honest. The kind of honesty that doesn't knock, it waits. The rain softened into a distant whisper against the windows. The house felt different somehow, less empty, more awake. I finally gave up trying to sleep and went downstairs for a glass of water. The kitchen light was on. Derek sat at the table with a mug between his hands, not drinking, just holding it like it helped him think. Sorry, I said quietly. Didn't know you were up. Storms make people honest, he replied with a faint smile. Even when they're alone. I poured water and leaned against the counter. For a moment, neither of us spoke. It wasn't awkward, just still. We started talking about small things, places we'd lived, jobs we'd taken just to survive, hobbies we'd left behind. The conversation moved gently, without effort. No trying to impress. No careful performance. You seem like someone who used to create something, he said after a while. I looked at him. Create. Yeah. Something with feeling. Writing, painting, music, something like that. I laughed softly. I used to write stories. Used to, he asked. Life got practical, I said. Schedules replaced imagination. He nodded like he understood more than I explained. That happens when people stop leaving space for you, and you stop taking it. The words landed deeper than I expected. Eventually we said goodnight again, and returned to our rooms. This time I slept, not heavily but peacefully. Morning arrived clear and washed clean. Sunlight spread across the kitchen floor. Cooper was already excited, circling Derek like they'd known each other for years. We took him out for a walk. The air smelled like wet earth and fresh starts. It should have felt strange walking beside someone who was almost a stranger. It didn't. It felt easy. Halfway down the path, my phone rang. Adrian. I answered quickly. His voice was rushed, distracted, already halfway into his next obligation. Plans changed, he said. Trips extended. I'll be gone another week. Everything okay at home? I watched Derek ahead of me, laughing as Cooper skidded across the damp grass chasing a stick. For the first time in a long while, I didn't answer automatically. Yes, I said slowly. Everything's okay. But as I said it, I realized something quietly important. Okay was no longer enough. The rest of the morning moved with an unfamiliar calm. Not excitement, not tension, just a steady, grounded quiet I hadn't felt in months. Back home, Derek packed Cooper's leash and travel bowl near the door, preparing to leave once the roads fully dried. I found myself moving slower than usual, stretching small tasks longer than they needed to be. Thank you, I said while drying the last dish, for being easy to have around. He smiled slightly. That might be the best compliment I've gotten this year. I almost asked him to stay for lunch, then stopped myself. Not because it would be wrong, but because I didn't yet understand why I wanted to ask. Instead I said, drive safe when you go. But he didn't reach for his bags. Can I say something carefully? He asked. I nodded. You don't seem unhappy, he said. You seem unheard. That's different. The words settled into the room between us. I didn't come here to complicate anything, he continued. I came to take a dog to a lake. That's still all I'm doing. But sometimes when you step into a quiet house, you can hear what the people inside it can't anymore. I let out a slow breath. There was no accusation in his tone. No suggestion. Just observation. Most people don't notice, I said. I notice patterns, he replied gently. It's a habit. Cooper walked over and leaned against my leg, warm and heavy. Grounding. My phone buzzed again. Another short message from Adrian. A flight change. A meeting added. A quick thumbs up emoji after my earlier reply. Nothing more. No question back. No pause long enough to wonder how I sounded when I said everything was okay. Derek didn't try to read my screen. He simply looked at my face. You should write again, he said. I blinked. That came out of nowhere. Not really, he said. You come alive when you describe things. Even ordinary things. That's usually a clue. I laughed softly. You always analyze people this much? Only when they're trying very hard not to be analyzed. By early afternoon, the car was loaded. Cooper was excited, circling like it was the best day of his life. At the door, Derek paused. Thank you for the coffee, he said. It turned into more than coffee, I answered. Yes, he agreed. It did. There was a brief silence. Not heavy, not romantic, just meaningful. Take care of yourself, he added. Not the schedule. Not the house. You. I will, I said, and for once it didn't feel like a polite promise. I watched from the window as the car disappeared down the street. The house grew quiet again. But it wasn't the same quiet. Something had shifted, not toward someone else, but back toward myself. And for the first time in a long time, I opened my laptop and began to write. By the next morning, writing had turned from a distraction into a need. I woke early, made coffee, and opened the document again before the day could crowd it out. The words weren't perfect, but they were honest, and honesty flowed faster than perfection ever did. Hours passed without me checking the clock. I didn't realize how long it had been since I'd done something that belonged only to me. My phone buzzed around noon. A photo message. Cooper at the lake, soaked and triumphant, a stick twice the size of reason in his mouth. Derek had added a short caption. He approves of the trip. I smiled, then noticed there was nothing else. No extra comment. No drifting into personal territory. Just the dog, the moment, the update. Respectful distance, clearly kept. I appreciated that more than I expected. That evening, Adrian called. Not rushed this time, just tired. We talked longer than usual. Or maybe I answered more fully than usual. There's a difference. I've been thinking, I said carefully. When you get back, I don't want us to just fall into routine again. He was quiet. Did something happen? No, I said. Something stopped happening. That's what I noticed. Another pause, heavier. I know I've been gone a lot, he admitted. This year got away from me. It's not just the travel. I said gently. It's the absence even when you're here. It wasn't an attack. It was a window. To his credit, he didn't get defensive. He didn't joke it away. He stayed in the silence with me, and that felt new. Okay, he said finally. When I'm back we talk. Properly. Properly. Not quickly. Not between notifications. After the call ended, I sat still for a long time. Not sad. Not relieved. Just aware that something important had been set in motion. Not by conflict, but by clarity. 2 days later, Cooper came home muddy, happy, and exhausted. Derek carried in the bag, gave a full report on food, walks, and lake adventures like a responsible field guide. Thank you, I said. Really? He's good company, Derek answered, kneeling to give Cooper a final scratch behind the ears. I noticed we stood a little farther apart this time. Not awkward. Intentional. Did you write? He asked. I nodded, surprised. Every day. Good, he said simply. Keep going. No claim. No closeness pushed further. Just encouragement placed gently and left there. At the door, he added, sometimes turning points aren't about who enters your life, but what they remind you to return to. Then he left. I stood there holding that sentence long after the door closed. Because I knew he was right. The story hadn't become about him. It had become about me waking back up.